So, in the last session, we discussed about the basic administrative part of Jira part, all that stuff. That is all something that we have covered. And even we have created a project which is called Insurance System Administration. So, when we are working on Jira, so we create epics, user stories, all that stuff. So, in regard to understanding our epics and user stories, there is a system administration application for an application. Normally, as a product owner, as a BA, we write user stories, we create epics, all that. So, based on the user stories which were written, development team will write the business logic accordingly. So, these are the different options that we have available in the insurance management system. This is about the summary part. So, uh, whatever the task that we have completed so far, is there any new user stories that we have created? Because writing user stories, updating the existing ones, this is a continuous process. This is not something that we do. This is not something that we do once in a time, okay? Because new user stories will be added to the existing application or a product backlog. So some user stories will be completed by the technical team development. This is a continuous process. So we want to know the how many user stories we have completed, right? So how many were updated, how many were due, how many were created. If you want to see, this is a summary where you can see all that, right? So all the whatever the work items do we have, etc. Everything that can be seen here. This is more or less like a understanding over the priorities. What are the different type of work, as I told you, right? So epics, user stories, all that. Because task we don't write, because our task nothing but simplification. The hierarchy as follows: epic, user story, task, subtask. That's how generally the categorization. Bugs will be updated when there is any coding execution done. So then bugs will come into picture. That's how generally it was. So followed by this, what is the team workload, right? Epic progress, everything that can be seen under the summary. So next about the timeline. Here we need to update the epics, whatever the list of epics, nothing but. So before I am getting into epic, let me give you some differences. What is epic? What is user story? What is sprint, right? So all that. Epic, nothing but large scale of solution. User story is nothing but short description of requirements. Product backlog, nothing but repository to store all user stories. Sprint is nothing but the collection of user stories which must be completed in a stipulated time to completion of a task. That's what generally we call it as sprint. So these are the things were there. So either we may be a role of a product owner or a scrum master or operations team, or we were in the role of a Jira developer also. Understanding over these are very important. So these are all essentially required. So in this timeline, first of all, we need to update the epics first. Okay. After that, we'll write user stories. So I'll take a sample document as I have told you. For example, these were the epics, right? So because our application is about policy insurance administration system. So one about the policy administration setup is the first one, because this is an epic. The major goal of an epic is to enable whatever the creations, configurations of lifecycle management of insurance policy, everything can be done under the policy administration. This is the first epic. So policy administration system. Policy administration system. Okay, this is what the epic was. Okay, this is the first epic. Second epic is customer account management. Okay, this is the second one. The third, billing and payments administration. Billing and payment administration. Hmm. Next, claims administration, one more. Right, the next one about the claim administration. After that, product configuration and rules engine. Okay, product configuration and rules engine. Next, user access and security administration. User access and security administration. Followed by integration and data exchange. Because these are all information where we will be gathering from the customer. Customer itself will give us all the information. Okay, stakeholders I'm referring to. Product owner or a BA will do all that. Next thing was reporting analytics. Next, system configuration and maintenance. System configuration and maintenance. Okay, these are all the different epics that we have, right? So all these things are considered and call it as epics, right? So we have created all the epics. Now, whenever we want to manage the project, whenever we are working on the insurance administration, as an example of an application we have taken, there can be multiple user stories we can write. Let's say, for example, this is an epic we have taken. Here you can see we can have a create a for child item. So here we have three different options you will be finding. One is about the story, second is a task, that is a bug. But initially, whenever we start with, it will be started with user story only, because again, I'm repeating, whatever the work items that we have taken, everything will be taken on a user story format, not on the task. Task means user story simplification, which consider can be a task and subtask. That when we follow Kanban model, generally task generations we do. But whenever we follow user story, whenever we follow the Scrum environment, we mostly write user stories only. Okay, writing user stories is the major thing that we do. So in that process of understanding, so first of all, we need to write down the user stories. At the same time, we need to update the bugs in coming time, because let's say one functionality, let's say policy administration, like policy account creation is a functionality we have developed. So there is a code which is written on that. So that code has to be tested. Subsequently, whenever the code has been tested, we need to verify, right? So is there any bugs, etc. everything. So if there are any bugs were identified, you can see here in the backlog where we will be updating all the items here. So we can update all the backlog. In the backlog, all the bugs along with user stories will be presented. From there onwards, normally this sprint development will be taken place further. That's how generally it happen. But initially, to start with, generally we start with epics. In epic, we'll be having user stories. In some companies, some projects, some teams, their comfort that I don't comment on anything, but generally some people don't create epics. Directly they write user stories, and they will do the prioritization. That is their way of learning. Okay, that's their way of doing. Okay? So that's different. But fundamentally, formally, when we are learning, it's always important wherein we have to write epics first. So once the epics have written, in that epics, we need to write on the user stories. These are all we call it as functional requirements or functional and non-functional requirements. If you follow the traditional way, we prepare BRDs, all that. When you are following agile environment, especially Scrum and all, we have to write epics user stories and all in Jira or something else. So this is what we have discussed in today's session. In the next session, I discussed about how to write user stories for these epics, for each and every epic, right? So there can be multiple, like it need not be one or two or three. There can be multiple user stories. There were many, but I'll take some sample, okay? At least one epic. We'll take at least one or two user stories and we will be learning so that you get some idea over that.